Hi there, it's Joy Lambert again, and this video will be a follow-up to the CAS 300 website evaluation exercise. So now you have had a chance to apply the CRAP test and know about the different kinds of websites you will likely encounter when you go out onto the open web. Let's take a look at the websites in the exercise and see if they would be reliable web sources to cite in a paper. Website 1. Okay, this one is a bit of a slam dunk. We know anyone can edit a Wikipedia page, so this would not be a reliable source to cite in a paper. Wikipedia can be helpful in that it gives us a general understanding of a topic and/or gives us keywords to search in a database on a topic. The reference list can also be a helpful place to find other sources that might be more reliable. Website 2. As we take a look at this site, I'd like to point out a few things. First, the URL. We see this is from cdc.gov, so that is definitely something in favor of this website. Next, at the top of the page, we see once again this is from the CDC, or the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This is a well-known government organization. We also see that the date on this page is recent. I would assume this date is the last time this page was updated. As we scroll down and read the information, we do see that sources are being cited. And if we scroll down to the bottom of the page, we see there's a sources section with full citations for these sources and links that will take us directly to some of them. So this website technically passes the CRAP test and would be a reliable source to use. However, while some professors would accept this as a high-quality web source, others may say that the information presented is too brief. So talk to your professor about what their expectations are for the sources for your assignment. And if you are unsure if a website meets the criteria as a source, please ask your professor. Website 3. So looking at this website, a quick look at the URL shows us this is another government website. The authors are clearly listed, and we can always do a quick Google search to find out a little more about them. The publication date is 2021, so far it is looking good. As I look through it, I can see that sources are cited throughout the text. To me, this looks like it would be a reliable source. However, when we go back to the top of the page, we see publication information. This is an article that was published in a journal called American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine. You also see the title of the article, the volume, issue and page numbers, as well as the DOI, which is the Digital Object Identifier. The DOI is a unique number assigned to this article. Think of it as a social security number for the article. Only this article has that specific DOI. Articles have DOIs, but websites do not. So while this would be a credible source to cite in a paper, it would count as one of your articles and not as one of your reliable web sources. Website 4. When we start evaluating this website, we can see this is a .org. That is a point in its favor. We do see a name listed, and we see he is a medical doctor, so we can probably believe what he has to say on a medical topic. If we click on his name, we can even find out a little bit more about him and help establish authority. However, if you look closer, it does show us that he reviewed this page. He is not technically listed as an author. Next, as I scroll through the text of the page, I can see there are no citations for any of this information. How can I verify anything that this page is asserting? I can't. Even though a medical doctor has reviewed this, we have no way of checking this information in another source or knowing the sources from where the author of this page got the information. In other words, this would not be a source reliable enough for college-level research. This page is an example of something that would be more appropriate for the general public as an overview of a topic. Maybe something a parent might take a look at if they are concerned about their child having a concussion. They could get a broad understanding of something and then ask their doctor about specifics. The information given on this page is not substantive enough to use as a source in an academic paper. Website 5. So looking at website number 5, if we look at the URL, we can see that it is a .org. We also do not see a personal author listed, so we can assume the American Speech Language Hearing Association is the author. We can look into this organization a little bit further by clicking on About. And reading that ASHA is a professional organization. As we scroll through the article, we can see that there are a number of parenthetical citations. And there is even a references section we can open to see all of the works cited in this article. Overall, I think this looks like a reliable website. One issue that some people may have with this is that a number of the citations are for books and articles that are kind of old. So again, check with your professor if you have questions. Some professors might be fine with you using something like this as a source, even if some of the articles cited are 10 or more years old. Other professors will want you to use websites that cite more recent sources. So, like I mentioned earlier, when in doubt, check with your professor. Website 6. All right, so right off, we can tell this is from Science Daily. You may remember in the previous video, I mentioned Science Daily and other websites that publish short summaries or press releases about research articles. This is a perfect example of that. On this page, we see the summary of a research article, and if we scroll down further, we can see the full citation for the article that we can use to track down the article itself. So this would not be a reliable source, but could help us track down an article that would be and would count for one of your scholarly articles. Website 7. This is a very attractive website. If we look at the URL, it's a .com, but again, we need to evaluate this as a whole. There seems to be a lot of information about helmets, but not anything that will necessarily meet our research need if we're researching concussions. If you look through the information on the website, you will find there isn't any substantive information about concussions on this page. Mostly it is dedicated to getting you to purchase a helmet. This is a great example of a commercial website designed to sell you a product or service and not to inform or educate. So this would not be a reliable source to cite in a CAS paper. Website 8. And finally, our last website takes us here. The URL is a .org, so we'll keep that in mind as we evaluate the rest of the site. I do not see a specific author listed, so we can assume that the Cleveland Clinic is the author. If we click on that, we see this is a medical group. If we scroll down to the bottom of the page, we can see that it was last reviewed pretty recently. As we look through the text on the page, we can see that there are no citations for sources of information. At the bottom of the page, there is a references section that you can open, but because there are no citations within the text of the article, we can't tell where or if any of these sources were actually cited, because they don't tell us. This is another example of something written for the general public and does not delve into the topic deep enough to be cited in an academic level paper. So now that you've gotten some experience evaluating websites, you can tell how much work it takes because you want to make sure that you are using high quality sources for your research. In the course of writing your paper, you also want to learn about your topic, and using reliable sources is the best way to do that. If you are unsure about a source, you can always ask your professor or a librarian to take a look at it with you and help you make a determination. Best of luck with your research!